separates, the last experiment I'm going to be doing here is the separating of miscible liquids. Now, miscible liquids mean liquids that are able to mix. So what I've got here is a little bit of ethanol and water. Now, if you put those two together, you wouldn't even know that you've got two substances because they both look the same. But they've got different boiling points. So ethanol is an alcohol and it boils at a lowish temperature, and water boils at 100 degrees. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put them into this piece of apparatus here, which is called a Liebig condenser. So this part here is called the Liebig condenser. And what we're going to do is we're going to heat up the mixture on this side. And what's going to happen is the one with the lower boiling point is going to boil first. It's going to start turning into a gas. It's going to run through the Liebig condenser, and as it comes into contact with the cold water, which I will explain to you now, it's going to condense and turn back into a liquid, and it's going to run out the bottom. So what we do here is you'll see that when I turn on the tap here, if you're looking down at the bottom, you'll see that water starts to fill up the tube. Now, this Liebig condenser is actually made out of two tubes. So it's got one on the outside and it's got one on the inside. And what is happening is the water is filling up the outside tube to keep the Liebig condenser nice and cool. Right, you see it's rising. When it gets to the top there, it's going to come out over here. And it's going to run out, and you'll see that it drips out the bottom there. Now, the only purpose of that water is to make sure that the glass of the Liebig condenser stays cool, so that when the hot gas comes into contact with it, it condenses and turns back into a liquid. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my mixture, I'm going to put it on the top here. It's in what is called a round bottom flask. Alright, now what we're doing here is we're heating the mixture indirectly, because ethanol is an alcohol, it is actually flammable. So we're heating it indirectly, which means what we're doing is we are making water hot, and what is happening is the mixture is resting in hot water, so that there is not direct flame coming into contact with the ethanol. Right, so what you should be able to see now is that in this round bottom flask, the mixture is boiling. And because we've got two liquids that have got different boiling points, one of them is boiling before the other, the one with the lower boiling point. Now, if you follow, what's going to happen is the liquid that is boiling is turning into a gas. It's rising up the tube, it's going through the tube, and then as it comes out the other side, it's coming into contact with the cold glass. And you can see that it's starting to condense. And as it condenses, it runs down the inside tube in the Liebig condenser. And what should happen is it then should start dripping out the bottom. And if you look carefully down in the bottom there, you should see that the ethanol is starting to drip out the bottom. So what's going to happen is that the two liquids are going to boil at different times. So the first one that is boiling is the ethanol. So it's going to boil, and when it's all boiled, then it will come out on this side, and what we should be left with on that side is the water. Right, now just like we had with a funnel, the liquid that went through the funnel was called the filtrate. The liquid that runs through the filter funnel is called the filtrate. Well, when you're doing distillation, the liquid that runs through the Liebig condenser is called the distillate. So we call the liquid that is running through here, it's the general name for any liquid that goes through the filter, the Liebig condenser is called the distillate. And then what's left behind in the round bottom flask is what's going to be called the residue. The residue is just a word for anything that's left behind. So once those two miscible liquids have separated, one is going to run through, and we call that the distillate, and the one that's left behind is called the residue. Okay, you can see very nicely now how the gas, so as it's boiling, turning into a gas, as it runs through the tubes here, you can see how very nicely it is condensing in the tube, turning back into a liquid, and then runs through the glass tube that is kept nice and cold and drips out the other side.